Hello there, my name's Annette with Sunbeam Fabric Art. Welcome to my channel. Today we're on block number 9 out of 10 of our sampler quilts. Today's block is called Farm Friendliness from Barbara Brackman's encyclopedia. For one of the blocks, we're going to use a 4.5 inch square of a dark fabric. Then I'm going to use 2 rectangles of white and 2 rectangles of a medium that measure 4.5 by 5 inches. Then we're going to use 2 white squares and 2 dark squares that measure 5 inches. Now I'm doubling that because I'm making 2 blocks. To get started, I'm drawing some guidelines on my white rectangles and my white squares. I am going to bisect the longer side of this rectangle into 2 pieces. I want 2.5 inches on the left side of the line and 2.5 inches on the right side of the line. I'm also going to draw a line from corner to opposite corner on the squares. Those will be used to make my half square triangles. To make the half square triangles, I'm placing a square of dark fabric right sides together with my square of light fabric. I'm going to be stitching on both sides of that line. To make my half square rectangles, I'm also placing the 2 rectangles of the light and the medium fabric right sides together, and I'll be stitching on both sides of the line about 1/4 inch. I do like to chain piece these down one side, then I flip all the units around and stitch down the opposite side. Once those are all stitched, I separate them, then I cut on the line that I drew. Those are going to be my units, and I'm going to take these to the iron and press them flat. While I was pressing, I ran into this little cut. I don't know how that happened, but luckily I still have some of this fabric. And I thought you all might appreciate that I got in such a hurry, I stitched wrong sides together instead of right sides together. To trim my half square triangles, I'm using the diagonal line on my ruler, and I'm simply placing that over my half square triangle seam. I'm going to trim off the right and the top side of this block, this unit. Then I'm going to flip it the opposite way, line up my ruler at 4.5 inches on the left and the bottom, keeping that diagonal line on the seam, and trim the other 2 sides. Now my half square rectangles do not have to line up anywhere, so I'm making it easy to trim these on myself. I'm just lining up the left and the bottom at 4.5 inches and trimming off 2 sides. Now that all the pieces are measuring 4.5 inches, it's time to lay this block out. My dark square goes in the middle. The half square triangles go in the 4 corners of the block. The dark is up on the first row, and on the 3rd row, the dark is down, and it kind of looks like a spool of thread at this point. Those half square rectangles are going to go around the center with the white fabric on the inside. Now it's time to stitch each row together, then we'll join all the rows. I like to take the left 2 units for each row, stitch them together, and then just chain all the pieces that are the 2 on the left of each row. Then I'm going to go back and separate these chains, place those units right back where I got them, and then last I will add that 3rd piece to each row. Now it's time to join the rows. I start by taking a row 1 and a row 2. There are 3 units to each row, which means I only need to match 2 seams. I'm using that nesting technique to make sure the seams are going opposite ways. Then I'm using my clips to clip it in place until I get to the sewing machine. And before I stitch, I'm going ahead and clipping on row 3. Well, I have never made this farm friendliness block before, but I really do like it. I think using various colors, lights and darks, you could make some interesting quilts just from this one block. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate your support, and I hope to see you back again real soon.